Hi guys, I'm Louis Pedron for Cinema Daily US. We are with Vietnamese American director Tony Bui for the 4K restored digitally remastered film, 3 Seasons. I did ask my friends to watch this interview, but they were asking me, what does digitally remastered mean? And of course, this is in 4K, the best quality ever, right?
Yeah.
So would you mind explaining to a layman's term of digitally remastered and then 4K, of course?
Yeah. So when I made this film, and for this way it's been actually for many decades, you shoot the film, you shoot it in film, and then you get a film print. So you basically have your film in celluloid. That's what I did. And then you bring it to the theater, and it's projected on film. That's something that maybe younger people today don't fully know what that is because it's all digital now.
Exactly.
But if you made your film during a certain time period, and basically from like the early 2000s and before that, you basically, master to, your product is ultimately a piece of film that you project. And because the film was released then, the film had never been remastered to a digital format. And the digital format that's of the quality that we all want today is 4K. And what that means is a lot of things. One, it means now your film can be streamed at the high quality. It means that your film can be preserved. Your film can be seen by a lot of people. You can make it, whether it's DVDs or sell it to a streaming service. And there's just many more ways for the film to be seen and accessed. Let's just say a university wants to show your film. Before, you have to send an entire print to them, which costs a lot of money. Shipping, it's like a big reel. It's like 2 canisters, 6 reels. Weighs, each one of those weighs like 30-something pounds. So they're sending 60 pounds. I mean, and then at the location, you have to have a way to project it. Mm-hmm. Now, a few buttons, it can be sent digitally, and they can play it in whatever format they want. So the whole process is much easier.
And CP file, or if it just could be
exactly.
And
by the way, when I restored it a few months ago, the technology to improve the visuals, picture, and sound, has improved a lot over the last 2 decades. So I was able to go in and fix the sound to bring up the quality, and also to restore the picture as well and make it. This is really the restored version is the best version of the film out there right now.
Perfect,
both picture and sound. And so it wasn't like we were just restoring to make it look like it would look like on film. I think we've been able to enhance things in a way that technology back then, didn't allow us to do. So when I see the 4K version now, I'm like blown away. I'm like, wow, this is like, it gets me really excited.
It is exciting, and then the reason why I'm saying this is explaining it is that I'm also marketing other films, and of course I saw the Born of Lino Broca abroad, and of course we're promoting a Filipino film, remastered Rizal. So with my viewers, they're gonna ask me what remastering is, so we're gonna watch this video and he explained to you what a remastered film is. But let's talk about your film.
I want to add one more thing.
Sure. Yeah.
When you remaster, you're also saving the film. So when you talk about these films from like earlier time periods, there's no way for anyone to see these films. And after a while, the films will degrade and disintegrate. So you want to be able to find a way to, remaster it, and to do so, you have to restore it. Mm-hmm. So you're actually saving the film, you're remastering, and to me, it's part of the preservation process of an art form, and I think that's something that's really important. And so there's a conscious effort now to go back mm-hmm. and restore and then remaster a lot of notable films from the past. And not only in this country, but in other countries. Yeah. In fact, I just got back from Vietnam, where I had conversations with some people about trying to find ways to preserve and save, which ultimately means to restore and then remaster to 4K, a lot of the films from Vietnam from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And by the way, 4K is not the only format to remaster. You can remaster to 2K if you want. It's just 4K is the format that has the best quality you want. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have the funds to do so, you can remaster to 2K too. But the important thing is to do so and basically to save these films, and that's something that's really important.
So a lot of film festivals actually are showing remastered films from the 70s. And that's very fortunate for us because a lot of people have not seen these films or won't have a chance. But in 3 seasons, I noticed, since we're showing the old to the new, relationships. You showed a lot of relationships. I count 3. The relationships, of course, of the 2 kids, street kids, and of course, the cycle driver with the prostitute, and the father who's going back to hopefully fetch
His daughter.
The budoy, do you call it? From Saigon, they call it budoy or something. The half American kid that they left there and they're feeling guilty and coming back. But can you, I guess, since I think you wrote the film as well, right?
Yes.
Would you mind talking about those relationships in relation to the title of 3 seasons?
Yeah. So there's actually another relationship. And that's a relationship between the poet Teacher Dao, the leopard
Right,
mom,
that one. Yeah.
and the lotus picker.
Lotus picker.
Yeah. So the 3 central stories are actually the cyclo driver and the call girl, Woody, the street urchin loses case, and the little girl, and then the Teacher Dao, who's a leopard poet, and the lotus picker. James Hager's character kind of weaves in and out of all those stories. So in a way, he's the 4th, but the main 3 stories are the main 3 sort of Vietnamese relationship stories.
This is the Harvey Keitel.
The Harvey Keitel role is kind of the 4th and kind of weaves in and out of all the other stories.
Yes.
So 3 seasons represents a lot of things. I mean, on surface, it's just in that area of Vietnam, it's really 3 seasons. You have like the dry, the wet, and the growth. It's not really a 4-season city, Saigon. And so it's something that experience and talks a lot of people about. It's a city really with 3 seasons, and they mark as really the dry, the wet, and the growth seasons. So on the surface, it's just literal, but also it's symbolic because it symbolizes a lot of different things. It symbolizes the transition. It symbolizes each of the seasons. Symbolizes different things. And I have each story set in a different season, and I intercut them. With the the growth season being the season of the lotus picker, the dry season, the cyclo driver, and the wet season with the street urchin who spends the entire night trying to find his case, basically in the rain.
Yes.
But also it's a sense of where the country is going, and a sense of progression, and a city that's in transition, like the seasons are constantly moving, so this, the word 3 seasons has a lot of literal but also symbolic value.
And of course, there's a lot of, as you said, the poem. The film is very poetic. Even the performances and even the flow of the film is very poetic. Now Vietnam is beautiful. Everyone goes there, including my life coach actually lives there, and he has lived and showed me how Zen-like. Your characters were very Zen-like, in spite of experiencing the differences between the poor and the rich, the money and the no money. So would you mind talking about that? Is that a virtue of Vietnamese being Zen-like in spite of?
I wasn't really thinking about it that way. The idea of sort of being Zen-like, I have a bit of a problem with, just because I don't want to describe any of these people as being sort of, it's as that concept of, especially for Eastern Asian characters, can be overly romanticized. You know what I mean? And so, I think so that was not on my mind. It was more just characters who are sort of struggling during a period of transition within the country. And it's a time when Vietnam and America had just normalized relations and embargo was lifted. So there's this huge wave of Western influences and a lot at that time when I was writing and writing the film, making the film, you hear a lot about the people who had the most to gain from this. You hear a lot of stories from the politicians who were making the decisions, or the business leaders, or the people who benefited from that. But rarely did you get to read about the people who had to live underneath the hotels or between the hotels, or there's a line in the film where as the higher the hotels get, the longer the shadows, and my characters are the ones who live within these shadows, and they're the ones who are most forgotten.
Exactly.
And so it's really about how these characters navigate these changes and you know, and make sense of it all. And so that was really it, and try to sort of live their lives, and it's about what, you know, sort of their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations, you know, and a lot of it, you know, and a lot of their livelihood, you know, was tied to this Westernization, from Lon wanting to be a part of it and wanting to live within the hotel. As she says, you know, her dream is to be able to live within these hotels and not have to go back to the life that she thought, you know, this hard life that she has. And you know, and Woody, you know, sells these trinkets, these Western trinkets to all these Westerners. So they're all tied to this Western, you know, influx in one way or another. Kien An sells these real flowers, but her work is disrupted by later on when she finds out that there are people on the street selling fake flowers.
Yes,
you know,
plastic flowers.
Plastic flowers. It's, you know, there's that sort of Westernization with the smell of the flower sort of sprayed on it. You know what I mean? And so it's about, you know, these characters trying to, you know, deal with all that. And I thought it was all characters that I experienced, witnessed, spent time with. This, you know, and this film is a reflection of real people who I met. And so all the characters in there are real people, and a lot of the dialogue was real dialogue that I heard that I would write down into a notebook during that time period. And yeah.
The competitiveness too, because you showed the racing of the tuk-tuk or the cycle drivers, and also the sports with the kid playing the competitiveness of that was a topic I think I saw in the film as well.
Yeah, you know, they
want to win.
Yeah, you know, and sports is a big thing. It's, you know, especially in sort of developing nations, sports, because it's cheap, doesn't cost a lot of money. It's something that is a favorite pastime. You know, you can get a lot of people together with one ball or one this or one that, and have a lot of fun, and it's not expensive. But sports is also, it brings people together. It's a dynamic that you see in a lot of countries that. So I wanted to represent that in this film. I want to represent that in a different way. So, you know, yeah, Woody and the street kids play, you know, soccer, or, you know, football as you call it in other countries, but it's done all in the rain, you know, and they're constantly disrupted by these Western cars that would go by and disrupt their games. Again, it's you know, these touches of Westernization that affects them one way or another. And that's something that I witness a lot. Like you know, today, those kind of street kids playing in the rain, it's not as prevalent. Back then, it was happening. You know, we see it all the time. And then it's just amazing. They would play in the rain, and around then a car would go by. They would just run out of the road. The car would go by, and they would just resume their game right away.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Or the cyclo driver, you know, something that I kind of created. Cyclo drivers like that, you know, like that kind of a race.
The race.
Yeah, I thought would be really interesting to put in the film. We used, you know, it's something that I kind of created in my own mind of how a race like that would play out. But you know, but it highlighted that the world of cyclo drivers, that they live in sort of a microcosm of their own. You know, they're kind of the invisible people. Much like taxi drivers today, right? They're, you know, you don't really know their faces, they're kind of invisible, but in a way they listen to everybody, they know what's going on, because they have to move around a lot, they know what's going on in the city, they're always listening to their, you know, their you know, the people that they, you know, drive around. So, you know, they you know, they're dynamic characters, but they're forgotten characters. No one really knows their faces. So they live in this microcosm, this whole world, and I try to highlight that. Through the cyclo driver and his friends. So the cyclo race and extension of that world, that, you know, what I was trying to do is let the audience sort of peer into that world a little bit.
I would say the White Lotus, the dress, and even white flower. Believe it or not, the liniment is famous in my country, the Philippines. The white flower, which became a sexy symbolism and almost sexual scene. So white was something very integral in your film, including this picture.
Yeah, I played around with colors a lot, and with the dry season, I definitely wanted to embrace the warmer colors, like the oranges and the reds.
Yeah, this scene is very poetic,
Yeah,
beautiful.
and then and then with the wet season story, definitely a lot of blues and the cooler colors, and represent that. So in this other stories, you don't see those colors represented. So that when we get to those scenes, a lot of it plays on a more visual, sort of subconscious level. But each color had its own. Each season has its own color palette. And when we get to the growth season, you see a lot of white, and it represents obviously sort of Kien An's innocence coming from the village into the city, but still working on this lotus field. But also the lotus flower represents a lot, because it's in a way it's holding on to a past, holding on to something that's traditional during a time when a lot of what's traditional was threatened. And as you see by the fake flowers, that ends up hurting her business and hurting her work. And then sort of the colors then, as the film progresses towards the end, sort of carry over to each other's season. That's why in this story, which is the story of the cyclo driver and the call girl, which is really the dry season, by the end you go from these red and oranges, by the end you get to the white. So I used colors to symbolize the moment, but also symbolize the transformation of these characters.
So we learned a lot from, of course, our director, Tony. Of course, the storytelling, everything is important, including relationships, and of course, using a visual and all that. But believe it or not, while I was watching the film, I wanted to cry out of nowhere. Everything was, not only the performances, but everything visually, including the songs. I don't know how I remember, I grew up in the Philippines. Because everything is the songs and the memory. So maybe lesson learned or words of wisdom to share to not only filmmakers out there, but film enthusiasts about filmmaking. And of course, the last question is, what are your plans for showing this around the world beyond New York Asian Film Festival?
Yes, I've been very fortunate. Like I was saying earlier, what sort of jump-started this restoration was the fact that Sundance chose it to play this year as part of its 40th anniversary. So they chose 10 films. My film got chosen as one of them. That jump-started the journey to get it restored and remastered in 4K. And then it's taken off. It's played in a lot of different festivals, and now we're stopping here and playing at the New York Asian Film Festival, and it continues on. We're going to play in other festivals and other events, and it's been just an amazing journey to have this film, in a way, be rediscovered, but also to be to still inspire a lot of interest. And people want to play, people want to see it. And it's fantastic, because it lets me know that the film, in a sense, is timeless, it still is relevant.
It is.
And it still makes an impact. To have the second life in this restored version, and to have this generation still be interested in wanting to see it, means a lot to me, and it's super exciting. And as an artist, to know that your film, over time is still relevant, and in some small way could feel timeless, is a really special thing.
Do you have a website that they can check out to find out about your different works, including this film?
I do not. I'm so bad with that stuff. But my next film, I'll tell you real quick, is about the famous Napalm Girl photo. The photo taken by Nick Wu, which won the Pulitzer Prize, about the little naked girl running down the street with napalm in the back. The next film is about that day and through the eyes of many different characters, and how that day played out. And it's not really about the photo, it's about the day that led up to the photo. And it's a different look into that famous photo, and from the eyes of the people who witnessed it, lived through the moments that photo captures. And anyways, that's my next photo, next film, and it's also through multiple points of view, like this film, and we see many different perspectives around something that was very familiar, but hopefully will bring some unfamiliar ideas and thoughts to it.
Your film definitely inspired me. I'm sure it's going to inspire other people. This is Tony Bui. It's such an honor to meet you, sir.
So much.
And of course, I'm Louis Vidron for Cinema Daily US. Hopefully, you get inspired with this interview, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. I'm Louis Vidron, Cinema Daily US.